Greetings and salutations. Welcome into the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. And Goon, Ironhead both here, as is Chris Buchanani. And we've got lots to delve into.
Couldn't skip Urban Meyer Day.
Before our week off. You know what was actually mildly surprising to me about that? Not that he was let go, but that's just the fourth coach that since the AFC, NFC, or AFL, NFL merger in 1970, just the fourth time that a first-year head coach has not made it through their first season in a job, which just
wow,
with the nature of the NFL, right. I mean. And yes, I mean, you step back for a second and you say, well, yeah, I mean, most teams are, you make a hire, you want to at least see how it plays out for a full season. But in the NFL, with all of the pressure that's there and with all of the different moving parts that are the NFL, I mean, for that to happen just four times in over 50 years, is pretty remarkable, right?
Petrino.
No, he wasn't fired though. Oh, but you said didn't make it through.
I think it was fired. You know, I'll have to look up the wording now.
Good point.
Okay, well, so Lou Holtz is another one.
Oh yeah.
So former college coaches.
Yeah, that's the point I was going to make. It was like, does it have something to do with that? Definitely.
I bet it is didn't make it through though, because it's got to be pretty rare that a guy doesn't at least get through. You know, whatever, 14, 16, 17 games.
Yeah.
But, so Petrino was probably on that list.
Fire coaches, though, so you figure
that's true.
They have to be one or two of them.
Yeah, gotta be.
But yeah, anyways, but it just, I mean, it was clear early on, right, that was not working on a number of different levels, and I have no idea. Yeah, I don't even know that he was necessarily overmatched. It just was not a good fit from the get-go. I'm not sure his heart was entirely in it from the start. I mean, I think it was a situation where he's like, it's a new challenge, it's money, let me give it a shot. And in theory, sounded like a pretty good thing to him. I just think the whole that whole thing with and regardless of the impact on the marriage and all of that, just the fact that you stayed back from the team. I mean, the lack of commitment, right? I mean, it's just a lack of commitment to the team on his part. And again, I don't think it was that is emblematic of it. I think. Just again, the feel you get is just from day one. He just really did not have his heart in it, and you just can't. That is one of those jobs. There are many jobs out there where if your heart's not in it, right, you just can't do it effectively, and people can see through it very quickly, right? I mean, and it was clear from the get-go that the lack of respect and appreciation in that locker room and throughout the NFL for Urban in that position, just it was, again, doomed almost from the start.
I enjoy watching Good Morning Football on the NFL Network every morning.
Good show.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I always have. I watch it. But Sean O'Hara was on there today. And they were like going around the table and they were talking about it. And I always like hearing an ex-player's position.
Yeah.
Especially, he's like, where Tom Coughlin sat on the team playing? And they were talking about what Brandon had said. He had never heard of anybody never not flying back with their team.
And he played for Steve Spurrier, who is about like as checked out a former college coach in the NFL as you're going to get.
So O'Hara made 2 points. He goes, Tom Coughlin used to ride in the main cabin, not first class. He's with the team, middle row, whatever, between two offensive lineman type of guys. So he was amongst the troops. And also Sean O'Hara said the fact that not one person's come out and said, you know what, Urban this, or I have Urban's back since this whole not flying back with the team and then getting the video made of him and the the younger lady. The fact that no one has come out and even like defended him, and then to hear stories that he was talking about the mole and Ryan. Well, who was the kicker who made the story? He came out today with a story that Meyer kicked him. He says, "You gonna make all your kicks today, dipshit?" And he was like, "Don't ever kick me again." Like, and it wasn't a playful kick. It was And I'm like, that's so like the college thing does not work in the NFL.
Yeah,
it doesn't, and it doesn't correlate.
Well, and did you see the
all.
follow up to that? That Urban called him in and gave him a talking to for cocking off to him in front of the team. Like that's the difference between college and pro players. Like an NFL player is gonna say something like that to you, and you as a coach, you have to understand that's the dynamic in that workplace.
Yeah, I just again, it just was not a situation that I think was ever going to work.
What they were going around the table today talking about is saying it almost came to the feeling like he wanted to get fired. By the end, like he just didn't. His heart wasn't in it.
Well, that press conference last week, right, where he was asked about, hey, you're giving all this money, you're supposed to get better results, right? He's like, yeah.
I mean, somebody was saying that to keep the contract, but I mean, can they go back? It could get ugly in the court system if Urban, they don't pay him that money.
They could say they fired him for cause.
With cause, and they're going to say, well, this was the cause, this and that. You lost the locker room. And I got to give the owner some credit because he didn't spur of the moment, went off of a whim, fire him after the incident in Columbus. He gave Urban he gave him time and the ability to win the locker room back.
Yeah, I think that's
what
exactly
he came and said. He goes, he did not do that. And I got to respect the guy who gave him that opportunity to not just fire him off the get. You're gone. Whoa, you're out of here. He sat back, gave him the chance to win that team back and to be a man up to it, and not one person. He didn't change one person's mind. So you got to give
Shad Khan.
You got to give him some credit for that, man.
Yeah.
How it got handled and this and that, and again, it could get pretty ugly. I mean, that wasn't a small deal. I mean, that was in the $50-some million. So I mean, he's on the hook for all of that, and that's just crazy to think about that he lasted 13 games or 14 games. Just not good return on investment, in my opinion.
Let me give you a brief tangent since we're talking about
these big words again.
Jacksonville Jaguars right now, and I'm sure we're going to talk about Jackson State before all this is over.
Yeah.
So this makes me think of my all-time favorite pro is Walter Payton, who is a Jackson State alum. And when the NFL was doing its mid-'90s round of expansion, Walter Payton was the head of a group that wanted to put a team in St. Louis. That was before the Rams had moved or moved out of LA. And so he was a big deal. He was going to be the first black owner in the history of the NFL. And it would have been, here was a guy who was like the face of the league for over a decade. Sure. And the St. Louis group with Walter Payton as the front man ended up losing out its bid in favor of putting a franchise in Jacksonville, which is just clearly not an NFL market, not an NFL market. And my feeling is that is like the curse of Bobby Lane with the Detroit Lions. There's like a Walter Payton curse on that franchise for 50 years.
Pretty good point, man. How did Jacksonville get a team?
I mean, God knows, man, ridiculous. It's when you look at all the other markets other than Green Bay, which is kind of grandfathered in, and they stick out like a sore thumb. It's crazy. I don't know.
That they do, and it hasn't gone well, right? I mean, this is
basically since the Mark Brunell days.
This is the worst chapter of a pretty shabby run to this point. Yeah, and I mean, it's not to say they've had some good players, but I mean, it's even in their best days, right? Like they're not captivating that area the way most NFL teams captivate. I mean, when the Steelers are going well, heck, when the Steelers are awful, they have a hold of that city. And same thing with the Eagles. I mean, you go right down the list of NFL teams. You need to have
a certain size metro, a big enough fan base. Jacksonville just doesn't have it. It doesn't have the base of people there to get excited if you've got a good team.
What were they trying to go after them? Northern Florida, Southern Georgia?
Mystifying to me. I really don't know.
Like they're trying to tap into the SEC market and this and that, but then
I guess
you're not going to make college fans into pro fans. You're not going to do that.
Well, speaking of college, let's talk about signing day here for Penn State, and again, I guess it's a consensus number 6 class for whatever that's worth. I think if you are in the top 10, there's a chance that when it's all said and done, your group of players is going to be the best of any group out there. Because it's, you're talking, you're parsing some stars here that, again, you don't know how those stars are going to translate. Regardless of how you want to parse it, it is a great class, probably the best overall class that at least in terms of credentials coming into college that James Franklin has had. And that's saying something, because that's, again, been his hallmark here since coming in as head coach is getting good recruiting classes. But this one is exceptional even by James Franklin standards. And I do think the key here moving forward, and you want to see the great quarterback and the great running back, and they certainly have that, the receivers, the whole bit, but it is going to come down to the linemen and how they produce, right? And that, to me, I don't know, Goon, and I don't know that anybody, including the coaches, could definitively tell you. I still don't know if it is just something that with the development here now, or because under Bill O'Brien in the first couple of years of Franklin, right, it was still that, listen, you're still building up. But now you're far enough into this thing, right, that you're getting the guys that you're wanting to get out of high school and building up the depth with those guys. And it's still not producing the way it needs to produce for Penn State to take that next step in the now infamous proclamation by James Franklin that we need it to go from being great to elite.
So
and they're just
Smith,
not there.
Ryan Bates, there was about 5 or 6 guys there.
Connor McGovern, Mike Bennett.
Or any of them James guys?
All of them were, except for Donovan Smith. Bates was in James's first full recruiting class. So where he came, he had to basically re-recruit Bill's guys when he came in 2014. Then added some of his own. There were some Vanderbilt flips in there, a couple of late ads. But Bates was in the 2015 class. That was James from start to finish.
That's really there's 3 or 4 guys in that class that are in the league right now, McGovern, Bates, that we really haven't had. We're not producing offensive linemen right now. I mean, they haven't really even proved that they can produce offensive linemen. I mean, again, you know me, I get very, very frustrated when we talk about this, because we came from my era when it was, we were pumping out offensive linemen like left and right, and now it's like we got one guy, but you still got to have 5 total. So, and it seems like the link, the key, because it's like we have great tight end play, we've had great receiver play, running back, and has been fantastic at times, but the offensive line has still been struggling for the last 10, 12 years. I mean, it's not like a current thing. It's just, can we get these kids? Are we doing a better job recruiting? Now, as a recruiter or a coach, it is the hardest thing to do, is to process and to recruit an offensive lineman, because you just don't know. You just have no idea. If you don't know what I'm talking about, and that is, I'm usually the bigger, strongest guy on the field is throwing guys around and as an offensive lineman. Oh, he's a killer, this and that. But is he that good going against somebody his own size and his own strength? You just don't see that or know that until you get him on campus. And we've rolled the dice a lot, and we've crapped out a whole bunch with offensive linemen.
And again, I don't know, but is that the linemen, that they're just not evaluating them correctly coming out of high school, which, as you said, is not an uncommon thing throughout college football, or is it? I still, and again, I don't know, but it feels to me like there is something that is not happening with the development that should be happening. And I don't know if it's the strength training. I don't know if it's just the technique. And, you can read a gazillion different opinions on it. I'm just not, I guess, close enough to the program, one. And now, there was a time where I would sit down and kind of go over this stuff and evaluate it. And I just don't have the time or the energy these days to do that. So I don't know if it is scheme. And I've seen people say that listen, Penn State's just running. You're not giving these linemen with your scheme and what you're teaching the right opportunities to be successful. So, and I've seen others, well, you're just not developing, enough guys that are strong enough and tough enough to make it in this league. So again, I don't know. And maybe it's a combination of all of these. Maybe they're just not quite getting the elite offensive linemen that they need. Maybe they're not quite developing them the way they need to in the strength and conditioning program. Maybe the technique is a little off. I don't know, but something needs to change, right? If this program is going to take that next step and be, truly battling Ohio State for Big Ten supremacy and for an opportunity to be in the college football playoffs with some regularity, or at least make an appearance at some point.
Spooch will know what I'm talking about. When me and Brandon go on the obligatory show, we talk about our preseason show of 2020 last year. I believe it was last year, but it could have been this year. And we said, usually when you have a freshman starting in your offensive lineman, that's a sign of a bad program. So it's like we need to change our thinking. And I have a theory, and that is that when they recruited us in my day, they got you small and built you up. I don't understand how you're 325 pounds as a senior in high school. That's huge. That's not good weight, in my opinion. And we're already behind the 8 ball because we have to break them down, build them back up. That's a year of development right there, in my opinion. Now, you're not going to – I mean, it's a very rare case when a kid can go right from high school and start in a big-time program. I mean, That's a hell of a player that can do that because you are playing against bigger, stronger guys than you are at that time. So if that happens, that happens. But it's a sign of a bad program if you're relying on – freshmen to come in and play your offensive line positions. Maybe we are recruiting them too big, and then we have to wait for them to break down and then to get their strength to where, lessen their weight a little bit and then build their strength up. I mean, you're delaying everything right then and there, in my opinion, rather than getting them smaller and building up. I mean, case in point, I hate sitting there comparing to our class and my years and this and that, but Jeff Hardings was 242 pounds when he came to Penn State.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now we're recruiting guys who are 342 pounds. You're going to tell me that a 17-year-old kid that weighs 342 pounds, that's good weight? It's not. I mean, it's not good.
It is possible that I hear what you're saying, and yes, generally speaking, I mean, you could have the exception, right, where the guy is just an absolute
that's an exception.
Beast from the get-go, and just but I hear what you're saying. So maybe that is I don't know.
Recruiting too big of a kid because we're following stars, and then again, and that's not just college coaches who can't evaluate these offensive linemen. It's these recruiting services. I mean, they're the ones he's a 4-star. How do you know he's a 4-star?
Yeah, he's
playing in a Washington D.C. suburbs. He's by far and away bigger than every kid and their fathers on the opposing team. I mean, it's tough to get a guy like that.
Well, wasn't that the knock? That was the knock on Michael Menet coming in. He was so highly regarded. I mean, you can't quibble with the recruiting service evaluation of the guys we're bringing in, right? They're typically pretty highly thought of. But I remember reading, the critique of Menet was this guy is going to take a while before he's ready to play at the Division I level, because right now he's just mauling kids who are smaller than him. The level of competition he's facing, you're just not getting a read on how he'll play against equals.
Exactly.
And it did take him about 3 years to get on the field, and he had a rough go.
20, 30 years ago, waiting for I didn't start until my 3rd or 4th year, I think. So you had grooming time where you could get bigger, stronger, understand the situation, understand the offense better. Where now it's almost expected. You're playing as a freshman and sophomore, and it's like physically they may not be ready to be out there. And as I've told you 10 billion times, 90% of offensive line play is about confidence. Knowing who you're blocking and knowing that you could block them is a big difference. There's a lot that goes into it. And if you're not sure with the offense, or you're not sure your strength, you're not going to have confidence. And you go out there and get pummeled, you're going to lose confidence. And, you go right back to square one.
Well, let me ask you this, too, because, in my evaluation of Sean Clifford, one of the things that I think, fairly you need to factor in is that turnover at the offensive coordinator position.
Big time.
How much of that plays into it, Goon, in terms of that confidence? Because that confidence is gained from a couple of things. Yes, personal growth and feeling, but also in, okay, I know my assignment. Yep. Like I know what I'm doing and I know what the guy next to me is doing. Well, if that assignment changes even subtly from one season to the next and then again from that season to the next, because one of the things that to me has been disappointing, and again, perhaps understandably so, but one of the things that's been disappointing is, again, if you've had a group, like if you've had 3 interior linemen play together one year, you're expecting that next year, man, they're really going to come together. And we just haven't seen that when, as guys have not just gone through a second or third year as a starter, but have guys next to them that, yep, this is our second and third year too. Again, that's when you expect if you have a bunch of, even if it's superstar freshmen and sophomores, right, playing on the offensive line, yeah, they might not be dominant no matter how great they are, but you expect them then now they have that experience, the growth and everything. And we haven't seen that in the junior and senior years then that, okay, now it's all coming together. But I'm wondering if that is, again, at least part of the equation too, is, man, they're just not 100% sure of what it is schematically they're doing from one season to the next. And that, again, can mess with your head a little bit in terms of the confidence and your ability to play with one another.
Absolutely, 1,000,000%. I mean, I know. Just put it in perspective. But my first 2 years, I had Dick Ayers as my offensive line coach, and his terminology I just never picked up on it. But then Craig Service took over as the O-line coach in '93, and he just based it up and made it normal. I knew exactly what all 5 of my guys were doing. I knew if he asked me what the left guard or the long guard versus the right guard or the short guard or center were doing, I could design it, and he had us all that well taught. And if you make a mistake, you make the mistake 1,000 miles an hour. And that's just going on and having the confidence to do that. So maybe it is it just doesn't seem like we're ever coming off the football with a lot of confidence and driving people off the ball. It just seems like we step, we see, and then react from there.
Well, you saw the Dave Jones stat probably only the second time since 1950 we didn't have a 100-yard rusher in a game.
And I didn't realize, I mean, I guess wasn't paying that close to it. I didn't realize that they never had one all season. I mean, if you sit down, I couldn't think of a game where we had somebody that went off, but that really is astounding that you wouldn't have one game. Again, if you just get one guy with 180-yard run, right, and he gets a couple of other carries, you figure at some point that's going to happen where almost by accident you get to 105 or 110 yards in a game against one of the opponents. I mean, there are some, you have the Michigans and the Ohio States in there, but you also do have some opportunities there to rack up some bigger numbers, at least in theory, against the Villanovas of the world. Yep. And it just it really is astounding that never occurred in a game all season long.
You're right. Just pop one 70, 60 or 40, 50-yard run and then just knick-knack another 50 yards. Not one person went over 100 yards rushing this year.
And again, part of it is that they did not, with the exception of Kevon Lee late in a couple of games, and even then, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I'll look up the stats. I don't know if either of you off the top of your head. I can't imagine. I'm just trying to think, and I don't know if we ever had a running back carry the ball more than 15 times or more in a and that I think
am
that
almost
is
positive that we did not,
and that is part of the equation too, right? Is and I'm not. And maybe it's just that my, again, personal biases and the way I grew up watching football. But one of the things that was fun to watch as a kid was, seeing a Kurt Warner or a Blair Thomas or a Curtis Enos. As those games were on, right, you saw them. I think we talked about this at one point during the season when I was kind of advocating that I pick somebody to be more of the featured carrier, because I do think you get more of a feel, just like the offensive line that we're talking about. The more you're playing with your teammates on the field, the more, and again, as a running back, okay, I keep seeing this defensive end crash the line or whatever it may be. But, I mean, you start to sense stuff, and you can start to set stuff up just the way linemen, again, should be able to over the course of the game. It's like, okay, this guy keeps crashing. You go to your quarterback, hey, I think if we, we run a little fake up the middle, we're going to get him in and then pitch it out or whatever. But you get some awareness and feeling there. And it just, for as much as we're talking about the offensive line, and I think rightfully so, it just never felt like the running backs got into any kind of a flow at any point this season. And again, I think part of that is that they were never given that opportunity. I mean, the reason, all of the great backs that we're talking about over the years, you give a great back 15 to 20 touches a game, they're going to break one of those at some point against most teams, maybe not for 80 yards, but you're going to break at least for, a 40 or 50 yard run. Again, if you're a great back at some point, if you're touching the ball enough. I just don't know if you only get 9 opportunities or 5 opportunities and so, not only hard to get in the flow, but now you're kind of pressing. It's like, well, this is my only opportunity to get to make a show. I got to go. And instead of, hey, let's see how this is developing, you're kind of, because it just never seemed like the Penn State backs got to the line of scrimmage quickly and made quick, good decisions with any consistency, at least over the season as well.
A great coach once said, if you have 2 quarterbacks, that means you don't have one. So if we're doing running back by committee, do we have a one on overall number 1?
Well, and Penn State's had talented running back rooms going all the way back to the 2016, 2017 time frame. I mean, we're seeing what Miles Sanders is doing as a pro. Like, he was good the entire time he was here.
Yeah.
It's just that Saquon Barkley was a generational talent, so he was better. And who got the majority of the touches? And then Saquon left, and there were talented backs sitting behind Miles Sanders, but he was the best. And so he got the majority of the touches. And even the next couple of years, when you saw a little bit more parity in the running back room, eventually Journey Brown kind of stepped to the fore, and he seized the lead role. Then 2020, you kind of saw Kevon Lee do the same thing. This year, it was just like a perfect storm of circumstance. I think a little bit of scheme, a little bit of O-line, tight ends not adapting to what they were being asked to do, and the running backs just not performing. And so the one good thing, look, I try not to hype up recruits too much. I do feel about as confident as I have ever bringing a talent in as I do about Nick Singleton.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, there's a recruit.
Ironhead say that, dude.
Right. I had to say that.
Say that.
No, I don't think it's going to work out for Singleton. I think that guy's probably going to get buried on the depth chart and never see the field. That's my guess.
I don't have a
Heisman vote right now.
I don't have a perfect track record anointing recruits as they come in, but I picked out some guys in every class. I'll say, hey, you know what? I feel good about that kid. I feel good about that kid. It's sometimes, we bag on the recruiting services and the star rankings and everything. Sometimes, man, you just look at a talent, you say, all right, that guy is special. I mean, there was a reason he was the national player of the year. And I do think that it's true that we have not had elite blocking in front of any of these elite tailbacks we've had. Like Miles Sanders didn't get great blocking in front of him. Saquon Barkley didn't get great blocking in front of him. But those guys were good enough that even without high-level offensive line play, they could get their yards. And I feel like Singleton is one of those backs. Now, look, I hope and pray we figure it out on the offensive line. Contrary to popular belief, we have all seen good offensive lines at Penn State. One of us actually was part of one. And believe it or not, we've even had good offensive lines since you graduated. It doesn't happen very often, but I've seen it. It's possible. So I hope that happens. But even if it doesn't, Singleton feels like the kind of guy who could have done more with the opportunities that were there this season that the backs we had on the roster just couldn't capitalize on.
I was talking to an old school Penn State guy this past weekend. And we're talking like, he's in his upper 70s, early 80s type of old school, And we were laughing. He said something to me, and I said, I've been thinking about that the whole time. And you don't see our running backs hit the line of scrimmage with any kind of momentum.
Yep.
It's almost like we are at a perfect stop, and then we have to stop and then go. And if you watch Saquon Barkley now with the New York Giants, he's going through the exact same thing, where he's got somebody on his lap right away, and he's got the acceleration from 0 to 100 every play. I would love to sit there and say, okay, we're going to pitch it like we did to Kijana Carter in the opening play of the Rose Bowl. Here's your 260-pound fullback and your mutant tackle and tight end up there. Go ahead. Just go. And there's going to be a safety in the hole, and you can do it whatever you want to him. Run him over, jump over him, whatever. And it was just like I wish we would get back to that. But football's changed. I mean, the defense is –
yeah, but you know what? If you want to see that offense in practice in 2021 – you can watch the playoffs. You're going to see it in Georgia versus Michigan.
People are sitting there talking, and we can't do that anymore. I'm like, I just watched the University of Michigan tear Ohio State's butthole up on the front seven. I mean, for 300 yards rushing. I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah, did that look like a team that was coached or quarterbacked by Jim Harbaugh, right?
Thank you, buddy. Yeah, I mean, that was beautiful to watch. It pains me to say it, but I had a tear in my eye watching that game, watching how it played out, and I'm like, it can be done. It still can be done. I mean,
maybe at the college level, but you'll never see it in the NFL. You got to throw the ball. Talk to Bill Belichick and the Patriots.
Sure.
You must throw the ball often to be successful in the NFL.
Correct. You got to throw at least 4 times. At least 4. He didn't hit that number last week.
As a quick note, Ironhead, you will absolutely love this. You don't go anywhere near deep enough into Eagles fandom to be aware of this, but one of the most glorious things about this season is the first, 5-6 games of the year, Nick Sirianni's trying to get a feel for what he's got at quarterback in Jalen Hurts and get his sea legs as a play calling head coach, and the massive imbalance between the passing game and the running game was out of control. I mean, we were even making jokes about it. Like there was a game where I think Miles Sanders finished with 3 touches, just insane. Skewed in favor of the passing game.
The running game was Jalen Hurts, and it was like, go do something. And
So now the Eagles have been calling way, way more runs. Like Miles Sanders, we talked about, just had his first game where he had 20 touches. I mean, you're seeing diversity of running backs, diversity of run plays. It's working very, very well, and Philly is winning. And the fans are furious that he is not giving Jalen Hurts enough opportunities to show what he's got as a quarterback before we got to make a decision on it.
I read into it like this, Booch. I mean, the idiot Philadelphia Eagle fans are sitting there saying, I told you if we run the ball more, they listen to me. I'm telling you. They listen to me. They got somebody calling a sports radio talk show, and that's what they're making their decisions off of Vito from South Philly making the call about running the ball more, getting more tread on Miles Sanders, and getting them out there. But we owe it all to Vito, buddy.
I'm telling you, Angelo, we got to run the ball.
Angelo, you're like a family. You're like a brother to me. I'm telling you right now. We run the ball, we win the Super Bowl. I'm telling you. Oh, man. But, our run game was predicated on our passing game. And if we didn't have a run game this year with the threats we had outside, that's pretty bad.
So statistically, since the turn of the century, statistically.
Which century?
The one we're in right now.
2000 was like last year, right?
Yeah, correct. Yes.
The one we're in now.
Yeah. We want to blow your mind, guys. Chad Pennington's son just committed to play quarterback for Marshall.
Oh, my God.
Is that right?
Yeah. Cole Pennington. Going to suit up for the Thundering Herd next year. No word yet on whether Randy Moss's kid will be joining him. But, so if you go back to 2000, the only 2 teams that match up statistically with Penn State's run output this year is the 2003 team, which is without competition the worst Penn State football team of my lifetime. Like, you probably have to go back to the days of like sweaters and leather helmets to find a team that was as bad as that one. Michael Robinson as a running back was their leading rusher. Not as a dual threat quarterback. They had to play him at running back. Yeah. And then the 2014 team, which was playing with 65 scholarships.
Right.
So I don't know what happened to our run game this year. I just know it was historically bad. So that stinks for this season, but it's good news for next year because it's hard to believe it will get worse.
As I said, you have those 2 receivers, you can't get a run game going. That was a bad offensive. That was a bad.
Terrible.
And you know what? I haven't watched the tight ends enough to even say a lot of that was coming from the outside, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Like we could blame the offensive line, but you know what? The tight ends have a lot to do with the running game. So
for sure,
I haven't studied it long enough to even give them a proper ruling if they're getting it done or not getting it done.
I will tell you it was a problem through the first half of the season, and I haven't seen any film breakdown or gone back to look at anything myself to say whether or not it improved in the second half of the year. I mean, the rushing output certainly didn't improve, but I don't know if the tight ends got better as the year went on or not.
Well, I mean, I'd say bullish on our team the first 5 games of the year. I mean, we thought we were rocking and rolling. Clifford was playing well, and then that injury really just set everything back. It was like it went stagnant pretty much. You know what I mean? And then we had to build it up.
Well, and what it really did was expose how important that lack of a running game was, right? Yep. I mean, when a healthy Clifford doing all the stuff he was doing covered up a lot. And listen, that's at every level. I mean, if you have a elite play and I'm not going to get into the debate of whether Clifford was elite, but I mean, he was doing more than enough, right, to keep this team on track. And again, they were on their way to a blowout victory over Iowa.
No doubt.
And, who knows if Clifford stays healthy and to your point, Goon, with the confidence, I mean, I don't know how that running game, I don't ever think it becomes a dominant run game. And we're talking about, what a great group of offensive line and running backs Penn State had. But if they're winning and, Clifford is continuing to perform the way he did, does that running game improve enough that, again, you're able to get a tough yard here or there? I mean, I don't know. It's obviously all theoretical. But it would be interesting just to see that alternate universe and see how that season plays out altogether if there is no injury to Sean Clifford in that Iowa game.
That's the biggest question of the season. What would have been? I mean, then you can go back and sit there and say, well, we knew Villanova was pretty good. But was Ball State that good? Was Auburn that good? Was Indiana? They all fell in their faces, and Wisconsin was not good until later in the year. So, I don't know. I mean, were they smoke and mirror type wins that we were that high on this team? And I just thought that Clifford had played so much better because he was not trying to do so much. And it goes back to the confidence. Like, he had seen it, done it 3 different times. Everything was slow motion, and he was making plays, and he was just doing so well. I think that Sean gets into an issue when he starts trying to do too much, and when it just became him, and there's no run game. I guess that could it came back to bite him a little bit later in this year. But for the first 5 games of the year, he was outstanding, and he was playing himself into an NFL contract, in my opinion, the way he was playing. And then that injury and everything just got set back.
Couple of other things. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take a where are we at here? Yeah, let's take a break here, and we'll be back to wrap things up. Do want to talk a little bit about the Penn State basketball situation and touch on the NFL and the weekend that is coming up, as well as we continue with the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show after this.
Lion Country Kia is offering exceptional deals on your new Kia during Kia's Command the Season event.
We have a nice selection on the 2021 Kia Sportage with various options and prices as low as $26,800, saving you $3,000. Or if you demand big power and towing capacity, slip into one of the 2021 Kia Sorentos available on our lot, starting at $32,680.
Discover why Kia drivers throughout the area come to Lion Country Kia or visit online at lioncountrykia.com.
Quaker Steak and Lube is throwing open the garage doors and setting up the umbrellas. It's patio season. Come enjoy great food, drinks, and fun in the sun. There's always something happening at Quaker Steak and Lube, but we're really amping up our event calendars for our favorite time of year. Visit thelube.com to find out what's happening at your local lube this season. Lunch, happy hour, dinner, or late night, indoors or outside, at Quaker Steak and Lube, you'll always find big flavors, friendly faces, and lots of fun.
Hi, Johnny Broom here. If you're in the market for a new Hyundai or a pre-owned car, truck, van, or SUV, nobody beats a Blaze Alexander deal. But don't take my word for it.
Hey, Goon says tell him Johnny sent you.
Hey, tell him Johnny sent ya.
Tell him Johnny sent you.
Wait, tell him Juan or tell him Johnny sent you?
Tell him Johnny sent you.
Here at Bill Pickles Tap Room, we say,
tell him Johnny sent you.
And remember,
And we welcome you back to the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show. Chris Buganani in with us as well. And just real quickly, it's one of those things. COVID fatigue is there, but the situation.
No, I'm fine. I'm not tired of this at all. Let's do another 2 years.
The situation. So Penn State basketball is going to lose what was a really neat opportunity, right? At Virginia Commonwealth to both from a resume standpoint, but also just a program that has really had a lot of attention lately with the run. What was it, 3 years ago now, or whatever?
Maybe a little longer, but yeah.
But
name notoriety, name recognition,
and a gettable win for Penn State
on the road.
Yep.
A gettable win on the road. If you didn't hear, because of COVID issues within the Penn State program, the game at VCU not postponed, just canceled, done for the season, and this has been a interesting, to use the generic term, interesting fall and now into the winter sports season for Penn State, in that you had the situation with the football team there where the flu was running rampant ahead of the Rutgers game. Penn State wrestling got hit at kind of two waves, but really got impacted heading into its previous last weekend of competition 2 weekends ago. And now the basketball program with the COVID issue. And, since Thanksgiving, perhaps not surprisingly, we've seen a spike, obviously, across the board. You're looking now at a bunch of pro teams that are, I'm not sure, going to be able to field teams. You've had some games at least postponed throughout the sports leagues. The NFL's, I think, still trying to kind of figure out what the answers are right now.
How many COVID forfeits to get Philly into the NFC Championship game? What do you think?
Take one this weekend. If they're not going to forfeit the Redskins this week, they're not going to pass it on any games. And
by the way,
I think precedent's been set with the NFL. I don't think they're going to cancel games.
As a Pirate fan, I have to tell you that I am hoping no labor peace for at least a decade. Let those guys just sit out. I don't want to have to watch that crap. But maybe in a decade, there's enough guys that'll be out there that they can go field a competitive team.
Them right now.
That's what I said about what's happening in the NHL. I was like, as a Flyers fan, I am an advocate of abundance of caution. You know what? Just cancel the whole season. We can't risk anybody getting sick. It's fine.
Penguins have been fun to watch lately.
The Flyers get Crosby and Malkin. Yep, perfect.
We'll finish on a 3-game winning streak, and that'll be it. We'll call the season a success. We just don't want anybody getting sick. You got to be safe.
So, Ironhead, we got to talk about this.
Yep.
I witnessed the end of collegiate amateur football yesterday.
Yep, go ahead. I think you're right, by the way.
There's no other way to say it than you're just going to go to the highest bidder right now with what happened to Deion Sanders at Jackson State when they took the number one overall player in the country. He got a $1.5 million deal through Barstool Sports to go to Jackson State.
Yep.
So what is stopping anybody from going to the top? What is stopping? I think that Horn was the guy who said it, that, if the guy Portney is going to be running college football, we're in trouble. I mean, so what's to stop Portney from the Barstool Sports going to the top 10 players in the country next year and saying, I'm going to give you each $2 million to go to Michigan? What's to stop, T. Boone Pickens, his family, from doing that for Oklahoma State? I mean, what's to stop anybody from doing that? It's like you said from the start, Ironhead. That's now out in the open. I mean, they've been doing it for decades, but now it's out in the open. And what we saw yesterday was just a blatant purchasing of an athlete, of a player. And it's what we know as college football is done. It's completely over. And there's no other way to say it. Chris?
Yep.
Wow, they don't call the best color guy for nothing, right? I mean, geez.
Yeah, I think, you pair it up with the transfer portal. And as a longtime fan, I think we're lamenting what we lost for sure, right? I'm not going to say, look, I'm not going to say that these guys don't deserve to be able to transfer. I'm not going to say they don't deserve to be able to make money.
I completely agree.
But regardless of what you think about that, what you just need to understand is if you're a longtime college football fan, the sport you were a fan of, I think, doesn't exist anymore. I think it stopped. And at the end of the 2019 season, we had COVID-19, and what we have on the other side of the COVID weird season is just something new that you're going to have to get used to, right? And I'm sure, again, I don't remember what it was like when free agency came to.
Well, I was going to
baseball.
say, so yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. It is definitively different, right? And yes, you're right. As we knew it, it is gone. Just as, and it's the same thing as professional sports. Yes, the days of, the Steelers of the 70s, right, where you knew that roster top to bottom. There were literally a couple of changes each season for that, probably a 6 or 7 year run.
6 or 7 years, crazy.
And that is gone, right? Like you're lucky if you have. 10 starters in the same position over a 4-year period in the pros I'm talking about now. Yeah. And so, we can argue about whether it's better, worse, whatever, long for it, but it's never going back to the pre-free agency days. And, you learn to adapt, and but it's completely different, right, than what I grew up with as a young kid. Sure. In terms of again, and same thing with baseball. Baseball even maybe more so because those careers tend to last so long.
I
think
knew so.
That basic Pirates lineup as a kid. I mean, every year it was. I could tell you the starting pitching, and again, you'd have a change here or there from one season to the next, but you basically knew. And it was a big deal. Like when Bill Madlock came in, I mean, it was huge, right? I mean, it was, oh my gosh, there's a new face and a new opportunity. Well, now it's like, well, if you don't have 3 or 4 changes in your man, then you're asleep at the wheel. So, and yeah, college football, much the same thing. It is a completely different world, and I think it is. One of the things that is going to make it impossible, and I don't think we're ever going to see a Joe Paterno type figure again, but I just don't think, just because of the pressures now involved and the money involved. Again, listen, you're going to, in a few years, I think these head coaches are going to be making 15 to 20 million a year, okay? I'm talking about the top end. And so you coach for 5 years and you have generational money now set aside, but the pressures involved in all of the things now. I mean, it's always been a pressure-packed job, right? Big-time college athletics. Sure. But now, you are adding so many layers to what it is that they have to keep track of and pay attention to and try to help facilitate and orchestrate to keep your program at or near the top. It's just again, it has always been both mentally and physically exhausting, that job, and it takes a special individual to be able to handle it, but even more so as we move forward. And again, you're going to have, it's not that all kids are going to seek, okay, go tell me where the most money is and I'm going there. You're still going to have kids that grow up. My dream has always been to be a Penn State football player. If Penn State offers me, I'm going. You're going to have those kids, Ohio State, all of these programs. But you're going to have more and more kids, right? And understandably so. I mean, again, depending on the circumstances you're coming from, my God, even if I'm a huge Penn State fan, if this school's offering me $3 million and Penn State's saying, we might be able to get you $500,000. It's just like we talk about with the wrestling program. Cale gets a lot of kids coming in here for a lot less than full rides. But there are the kids that are like, no, I can't afford to come here for half a scholarship when Edinburgh or, pick your school is offering me a full ride. I got to go there.
Interesting.
And so, again, you're going to have, more schools. And, if you want to look at it as glass half full and the opportunities that are there, listen, the the opportunity for that changeover that we can see quickly, like in the NFL, right? You can go from worst to first pretty quickly in the NFL in a season between trades and good draft or two, and free agent pickups and all of that, and it can go the other way. And I think we'll see, but I think you're going to see things open up more. And again, I'm not arguing for better or worse, but Jackson State may become a college football playoff contender in 5 years, and you may see again another program or two that are off the radar right now also emerge as factors. And it'll be interesting as far as it goes to see that happen. As a sports fan, always like kind of seeing new programs, new faces. It was, when Miami first started having success under Howard Schnellenberger, I was always Penn State first, but when Miami beat Nebraska in that Orange Bowl, I was I was into that game as a kid because man, this is new and it's Miami. This is cool. And then I got tired of Miami pretty quickly after that. But at the time, right, it was a huge deal when the Denver
It was like
Broncos,
when the Yankees won the World Series in what was it, 96? I was like, oh, the Yankees, they haven't been good since my dad was a kid. This is neat to see them win a World Series.
We got in our neighborhood when Denver had the Orange Crush and Gradishar and those guys. We got on that bandwagon. And again, we all had our teams first. I was never rooting for the Broncos over the Steelers, but man, he jumped on the bandwagons for all right, now the Steelers are gone. I want the Broncos to beat the Cowboys. I want the new kids on the block to have success. And I think, there will be some opportunities there, but yeah, there's no question that the world as we knew it growing up is gone, and it's not coming back. It may change. The free-for-all that is right now, that may be reined in a bit, but we're not going back to the way things were a few years ago ever again or anything close to it.
I agree. Breaking news, this COVID stuff in the NFL. So,
I'm telling you.
The genie's out of the bottle. It's done. But I could not get it out of my head what you said the other day on Tuesday, Booch. We talked about transfer portal and recruiting. You literally need to spend as much money in the transfer portal as you do in recruiting now. Mm-hmm. Think about that. Okay, are you putting all your eggs in this recruiting basket? And if stuff doesn't go right, the kids are going to be gone. So why would you just not wait for proven players and go out and get them? It's a crazy thought to think about, but I've been thinking about it for 2 days since you said that, Booch.
When you look at the season Penn State just had and the challenges that came along with that, all the rumors around James Franklin's job status through most of the year, and all that we're seeing with NIL, it is a minor miracle, and the staff is to be commended all the way down to Andy Frank and his support staff in the recruiting department, that they put this class together and they held it together for as long as they did. And now guess what? All those guys are officially Nittany Lions, and you start the process of re-recruiting every single one of them every single year.
Every year. Your team right now, you're re-recruiting them for next season. So I have one question for you, Booch.
Shoot.
We had one 5-star. We had the number 1 rated quarterback and number 1 rated running back in the country. Which one was Alar was the 5-star. So Singleton's not a 5-star running back?
So there are 2 guys, Singleton and Denai Dennis Sutton, who are 4 stars with some services and 5 stars with others. I don't think there are any rivals. Might have Dennis Sutton and Singleton both as 5 stars. But look, all that's, look, he's the number 1 player, not the number 1 player. Is he better than any of the guys we had last year? If the answer is yes, somes good to me. Let me give you one silver lining, I think, of all this NIL stuff.
Next week. Are you going to blow me up now and make me think about this for 2 weeks?
I'll give you a positive of all the NIL stuff.
Positives? I'm good. No negatives, baby. All negatives.
Well, okay.
Just kidding. What do you got?
We can talk about the Eagles afterwards if you want to talk about negative. I do think it is possible that as NIL takes hold, it finally stomps on the brakes with the facilities rat race war, because compared to Florida State, Jackson State is like a cracker box facility. Bear Bryant and Vince Lombardi, those guys won championships with weight rooms that look like the set of a horror movie. We know it can be done. And so if we saw anything yesterday, we've seen proof positive that a school with lousy facilities, I'm not talking about slightly less lavish, which is like Penn State versus Michigan, right? Like a school with junk facilities can pay a guy to come there instead of going to one of the premier programs facilities wise. Florida State's been one of the top programs in college football for most of our lives, right? So like if the momentum in college football is going towards where can you get the best NIL opportunities, then maybe that stops with it's your fault we lost to Illinois because Penn State doesn't have a water slide shit.
We have a water slide?
We're on the internet. I can curse. What's that?
Do we have a water slide at Penn State?
Oh, we do not.
I'm sure we'll get one. No, we got to keep up with Joe.
By the way, I just real quickly, I was just saying to somebody the other day, I have figured out I got to stop saying that because, I think we're real cavalier with the words we use in the media, like to describe things. I'm not going to get into any specific political examples, but you all can think of one or two things that are routinely reported a certain way in this country that are probably not accurately described. And I always use the water slide as like a stand-in joke for like super excessive, ridiculous facilities. And then I have people coming up to me and say, I heard you, are they putting in a water slide at the Lash building?
Clemson has a slide.
No, yeah, exactly.
They don't have a water slide.
Yeah. Clemson's got the slide and the water feature, and we just put them together. The point is,
that's what wins football games.
If NIL is what is going to start driving recruiting more and more, maybe that means we will back off on, we got to make sure we have a flight simulator in the football building or else we're never going to win another title.
Scuba diving lessons at that Lash building.
Chase Claypool's asking is there going to be music on the water slide? Are we providing music for the water slide?
He needs a more fun water slide activity.
Wanted to make sure because he's going to come to the water slide and if it's music playing.
It's unbelievable.
By the way, with my famous predictions, I am here to tell you no chance that the Steelers beat the Titans, and when we next get together, the Steelers will definitively be eliminated from the playoffs. They will be 0-2 in these next two games. They don't even have a chance. I'm not sure why they will even show up, if they'll even show up. No chance. That's the official Ironhead prediction, given all of my other predictions throughout the course of this past year.
Go check out the line on that game and hammer the Steelers right now.
Real quickly, the Penn State wrestling team will be at the National Collegiate Duels on Monday night. 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock are the start times for the dual meets against Northern Iowa at 7 and then Cornell at 9. There's been some confusion, including on the part of yours truly. They've changed it a little bit, but it is Penn State will wrestle at 7 and 9 on Monday. And then if Penn State wins those two dual meets, the Nittany Lions would likely face Arizona State, could be Virginia Tech, but likely Arizona State in the blue bracket finals on Tuesday at 7 o'call.
Wow, so there's going to be an Arizona State Virginia Tech match in the first round of that.
It'll be they're two of the three. So what they're doing is they'll have 4 3-team pools.
Okay.
And 2 in each bracket. So the red and the blue bracket will never meet each other. Okay. So the red bracket stays in its red side of the things throughout the entire tournament, and the blue and the same thing. So Arizona State and Virginia Tech, and oh my gosh, I'm blanking now on the third team in their 3-team pool. And then it'll be Penn State, Cornell, and Northern Iowa. And then the way they're working it on the blue side, and so the winner of that pool will face the winner of the 3-team pool in each of those brackets faces each other. Team that finishes second faces each other in third. So everybody will have 2 meets on Monday that's going down there, and everybody will have 1 meet on Tuesday is the way that's working. So Again, we will not have any shows next week. We will be off for the Christmas break, and then we will be back for that week between Christmas and New Year's for the Tuesday and Thursday bowl shows as we get you ready for Penn State and Arkansas in the Outback Bowl. We hope you have a very Merry Christmas, and until we get together with you again a week from Tuesday, we hope that you are both good and safe. Take care.